All right, folks, welcome to this week's episode of Story Shack with Jake and Zack. You already heard the pre-roll bumper roll thing, but saying it anyways, welcome. This week we are, and have watched, but are covering The Shining from 1980. That's Stanley Kubrick's. That's how you say it, right? It's Kubrick.
Yeah, I think it's Kubrick.
That's how I usually say it and hear it, but it kind of looks different. Anyways,
Right.
So we're starting with the Rotten Tomatoes Thermometer. The audience.
I'm going to say it's pretty high.
Yeah.
I want to guess.
Yeah, it's high. The audience gives it a 93%, or at least as of today, 93% is the score there. Critics, it's still an 84%. So yeah, still pretty high.
I can see that. Yeah.
Starring Jack Nicholson.
Jack Nicholson.
The thing that stood out to me before we delve into any maybe potential fun facts about this film, as there are quite a few from what I recall, are the many faces of Jack Nicholson. He is a master of just looking crazy as fuck.
Yeah.
And just giving you all sorts of different faces. It was creeping me out the whole time, and I loved it. Yeah. I respect the man. That movie is good. Right. Kubrick's a good director, and then you got his acting, and then the bug-eyed, scared face of the wife. She's so good at it. She has this frightened look throughout, and she's all timid and stuff. And is that dynamic too? That's something we could probably talk about. But that's my initial thought, was the many faces of Jack, and the whole thing's so creepy and good.
Yeah.
Done. Podcast over. Cool.
All right. Cool. Great episode. And on to the next one.
What are your thoughts?
So, I'm a big Stephen King fan. I grew up half an hour from where the hotel that inspired him, that he was staying at, that he wrote The Shining at. I've read the book. It's one that, just for whatever reason, maybe it's just kind of, the fact that I grew up 30 minutes away from it, it's always just felt like more of a kind of personal type of story to me. Mm-hmm. And my dad went crazy and tried to murder us in a hotel once. No.
I remember you telling me about that.
Yeah.
That was a dream though, right? I think.
Yeah, just a dream.
Oh,
just
okay.
A dream.
Right.
But no, I mean, I like the book. I like the movie. I like the book a little bit more than the movie. For me, the movie, it's just, I think it's one of those kind of, we've talked about it before, where it's, it was made in the 70s, late 70s, early 80s. So the pace of it's just a lot slower, but you really get a lot of that tension that comes through. Jack Nicholson gives a great performance. Shelley Duvall gives a great performance. You really feel for her throughout that, especially in third act, where shit's just going off and it's bonkers, and you just kind of really feel for her. But yeah, I mean, I enjoyed it. I always enjoy it, but I like the book a little bit more.
I need to read the book. Never read the book. I'm a Stephen King fan. His writing is so, I'm generalizing here, but it's the average reader can read it, enjoy it, and understand it pretty well without having to have a huge or sophisticated vocabulary.
Right.
But it's still a little bit, I don't know if highbrow is the right word, but elevated in its, I guess, again, you'd say sophistication. So even though he's able to pump out all these great different story ideas, his short stories are good. I've read a handful of those. So those are good too. And so I have respect for him. I like his work, and I haven't read all of it. I've seen a ton of movies, though. Probably seen more movies than books I've read. But
right. I'm slowly reading through his backlog of books that he has. Mm-hmm. But, I mean, there's hundreds of thousands of pages to get through. So, it's not a quick task. But there's just some differences between the book and the movie that, I feel like anything is hard to translate between medias. Mm-hmm. And I mean, Kubrick did his interpretation. Stephen King did a mini-series in the 90s that was more close to the book. And I can't really say it's his interpretation of it because it's his story. But I mean, there's character things that, I'm trying to remember specific examples, but there's more of a slip into madness, I think, in the book than there is the movie.
Oh, I could totally see that. It's funny because during the movie, the whole time, well, pretty much the whole time, I was thinking, I wonder how this reads in the book.
Yeah.
Because it's already almost a 2.5 hour movie.
Right.
And like you mentioned, the pacing, so that kind of feels like it drags it out, but carries the tension pretty well throughout.
Yeah.
That I'm like, man, this must be a trip to read.
Right.
Because you probably see into his head a little bit more what's going on, and you're probably questioning this and that a little bit. So,
see, and it's hard for me also to kind of separate the movie from the book without also bringing in Dr. Sleep, which was the sequel, because the books are their own story and the movies are their own story, but Dr. Sleep, the movie, does a really good job of tying all the books and Kubrick's movie together in one kind of definitive kind of piece. And there's
That's interesting.
the movie ends different than the book, and I feel like the way that it ends in the movie is the way Stephen King would have liked to have ended it.
Yeah, that's kind of it's like Chuck Palahniuk for Fight Club. I think he said he liked the movie ending better than his own in the book. Even though I also do like the book ending, but I can see why he would say that.
Yeah, because the main thing about like the Overlook itself is a character throughout the story, and you don't really get in the book or in the movie. You don't really get a cathartic ending to that character. It's just kind of a looming presence. Like they all just hop in the thing and drive away for the Overlook to take its next victims or whatever, And in the book, it's different. I don't want to give any spoiler alerts or anything, but it's more of a conclusive ending for that, which I really like because Stephen King kind of wrote himself into a hole with trying to do a sequel. So Dr. Sleep, he has to kind of come up with a way to give you that ending that you want, which I don't think he really got in the book. But the movie, because the Overlook exists and is still... All right, fine. I'll just say it. Spoiler alerts. Anybody hasn't read it,
I haven't read it, but I was going to ask you anyways because I'm curious. It probably won't ruin it for me. So
yeah,
if I could speak and be like, I've never read it. I haven't seen Dr. Sleep. So, but I need to.
In the book, the main reason why Jack and the family are staying at the Overlook is to cycle the boilers, to heat different parts of the hotel so that it doesn't freeze over. And he's got to watch them every day, and if it gets past a certain pressure level, they'll explode, and the hotel will explode. That's a part that they really leave out of the movie.
I was curious on that, because I'm like, well, I guess they're there to kind of just watch it, but what do you just got to make sure nothing happens to the building? They didn't go into it.
There's one scene where Wendy is checking the boilers in the movie, and that's about it. That's all they do to touch on it.
Yeah. Okay.
So in the book, that's a big part of it. There's he finds in the boiler room like a box of pictures and old memorabilia from like the previous kind of things, previous parties and stuff that have happened there. He's doing all this research about the hotel throughout the book. And at the end, they like wander outside and he doesn't check the boilers or anything. So the Overlook ends up blowing up. In the book, Dr. Sleep, they've turned the Overlook into like a campground.
Okay.
So it's still this like paranormal place, but the Overlook isn't actually there. So it kind of takes you out of the book, but when you see Dr. Sleep the movie, because Kubrick didn't blow up the Stanley or the Overlook, they go back to it in the movie, and you can get that kind of cathartic, explosive ending to that.
Interesting. Okay, because yeah, like with it still being there, you could totally do another thing where it claims more victims, almost like if there's like a 40 or 50 years later.
Yeah.
The next thing, her family comes in, or whatever, whoever.
And if there's anybody out there that hasn't seen Dr. Sleep yet, it didn't do really well in the theaters, and it was like December 2019, so...
It's underrated?
It's very underrated.
Wait, 2019?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't even know that. I feel like I've heard the title, though, but that's...
It was the last movie I saw before, like, the pandemic hit and everything, over that winter season.
Oh.
So... But it's really good, and you should check it out. And it's a good companion to the Kubrick movie that gives you a Stephen King kind of finale. Because I know Stephen King hated the Kubrick version. And, you know, I think if you put them both together, like, I watched The Shining, but then I watched Dr. Sleep within, like, a day of each other. And it's a good double feature. And it gives you kind of a whole story of everything.
But So what's with... Okay, so if the ending's different, I was kind of curious about how to explain the ending with... Because you can tell Jack's going mad.
Mm-hmm.
But there was that mentioning of, oh, you've always been here kind of thing. And the place seemed familiar to him, so it made me go, oh, they're just fucking with him. Or is that really true? But then if he's in the picture at the end, I want to know, is that like... he's now been claimed, or was he always part of that, but then he has this family? So then what's like real and what's not kind of thing? Like, what are they trying to make it seem like in the movie? Because there was like 3 things that I was like, I'd probably only seen the whole movie like once before and then pieces. And I was like, I didn't remember the whole ending, like that part, the picture, I guess I would say, which then I go, oh, I've seen that happen in other stuff. It's like kind of an iconic thing that some movies do, or you know how like Simpsons made fun of the all work no play thing, so it just becomes kind of part of the pop culture. But I can't remember the other 2 right now. There's a couple of things. Oh god, I'm blanking on it. But there's like 3 things. I was like, oh, I don't remember this at all. Oh, the thing in the bathroom with the lady.
Yeah.
I was like, I don't remember this at all.
Yeah.
Maybe I was too young when I watched it the first time, and I just happened to not see it or catch on to that, or watch the TV cut version or something.
Yeah, that could be.
Maybe that's what I watched.
But yeah, there's a lot of very slow, weird moments that, you know, I think Kubrick left for interpretation. Mm-hmm. I don't really, like, I've seen the movie multiple times, and now I've read the book, and I still don't really know exactly what he's trying to say about any of it. And I guess that's kind of the fun of his movies. And it's the same kind of like Christopher Nolan, where things are left for interpretation. They're not going to give you all the answers. But that also frustrates me as somebody that wants the answers. And it like I've said before, it kind of feels like shoddy storytelling if, you know, well, why don't you tell me what you think? Like, no, I don't want to know what I think. I want to know what you think. You wrote the thing.
Yeah, I like leaving it up to interpretation, but then knowing that you had your own thought on it. Because sometimes I see something and go, well, it could be this, or that.
Right.
And then, so what do I think of it? Or, you know, and then I like entertaining the idea of all 3, you know, but then if the person who created it had a specific one, it'd be nice to know what they intended.
Right.
Because you can still, because people hear that and they still will go with their own interpretation regardless. It doesn't ruin it. So yeah, I agree. It can be kind of a shoddy way to handle storytelling.
But my interpretation of it all is that the Overlook is its own character throughout the movie. It's a haunted place, and it's
on an Indian burial ground.
Right.
Classic.
It pries on, you know, in the book they don't really touch on it too much in the movie, I don't think, but in the book he's, you know, a recovering alcoholic. He had an affair with a student, and that's why he's like got this job rather than teaching.
Oh, I didn't know that.
So
that wasn't in the movie?
No. I don't think so.
Yeah.
So and I think he's just kind of a struggling guy in a bad situation that a struggling alcoholic wouldn't like to find themselves in. And I think the Overlook kind of takes that and pries on it. And whether it's cabin fever or more of a supernatural entity, I think both. I think that's kind of the interpretation, and especially with him being like, in the picture at the end, you've always been here. It's not necessarily possible, but it's the way of the Overlook kind of personifying itself in a person.
Yeah, there's kind of I almost wanted to sympathize with him, at least in the beginning, because he's trying to recover, it seems. And then, and there's moments where I don't know, it's like when he was having those night terrors and screaming, and then his wife checks on him. There's like a moment where that's why Jack Nicholson's such a good actor, because he seems so vulnerable in the way that he's portraying that moment.
Right.
That's very humanizing. But then he's like halfway or almost all the way gone at that point when that stuff's happening.
Right.
It's just kind of sad. But like you said, the hotel itself kind of preys upon those weaknesses of him.
Yeah.
That he's actually, I think, as a whole, a pretty weak or at least broken down character to start.
Right.
But then that also makes him feel more human. Just maybe not just humanize him, but feel human. And then, oh crap, he snapped.
Right. Yeah.
With this, yeah. I want to know how much of that is, because that's what I was thinking a lot, was how much is supernatural and how much of it is just psychological with him.
Right.
But obviously there's a supernatural aspect, because I forgot the other guy's name that was supposedly the one who killed his family before. Grady, yeah, Mr. Grady, you saying, right? That he actually let him out of that storage room, right? Because you hear the click and that cuts away, and
yeah.
So there's obviously some supernatural thing to it, or that's what I don't know how else he would get out of that.
Yeah,
he's like imagining that, but he was able to get out. Oh, yeah, so it's kind of a fun movie in that regard, where you're trying to figure out what's going on.
Yeah.
But it's really creepy. And it had my stomach in knots a couple times.
Yeah.
Actually.
And great performances. Like, the pacing is slow, but it also kind of works for the genre. Where you don't really, expect anything. Like, when Danny's riding the bike around and he comes around the corner to the twins, it's, jarring.
Yeah, they do all those old, I don't want to say old school, but I guess, I don't know, lack of a better word, where it cuts to and then cuts back.
Jump scare.
A little bit and then cuts to them, and then the girls are dead on the... That's creepy going back and forth between that, but because of its do. I guess the pacing of the cuts was pretty similar, but it just feels so like the kid's like, oh my God. Yeah. Right. It's not bad, though. It's just interesting, because I feel like that's how things were done back then. I mean, sometimes I think it's better if we feel like we talked about this before, just because there haven't been any real good original ideas lately, that the way stuff's cut is all kind of whatever. And so
thrown together. Have 900 cuts.
Yeah. And that, too.
Do you want some fun facts?
Yeah, we can go into the fun facts.
I've got some in my mind, and again, I look at IMDb trivia pretty religiously, and I think I have most of this right, but disclaimer, some of it may not be.
I got a few up, so I'm trying to pick a few that I'd like to go over, so cool. Whatever you don't, I might bring up.
They shot for a year, or a little over a year. Stanley Kubrick wanted to shoot in order. They had everything lit and set to go at any time so that they could just kind of move around the hotel. Kubrick was kind of an asshole, because one of the guys in the beginning that's in the office with Jack brought a chess set in one day, and Kubrick saw it and decided that he wanted to play chess. So they wrapped shooting for that day, and he sat and played this actor in chess instead of shooting the big budget movie he was working on. Let's see. Some of the snow that's used on the exterior of the Overlook was from The Empire Strikes Back, which was shooting at a nearby soundstage.
Oh, yeah.
So I don't remember which one came out first. I think Shining came out first, so it was reused on Empire, or Empire shot and then they reused it on Shining, vice versa. I don't know about this one. I read that they told Danny, the actor that played Danny, they didn't tell him that it was a horror movie. They told him it was like a family drama, and he did not realize it was a horror until he watched it when he was like old enough to actually watch it. I don't know how true that is. I don't remember where I heard that, but it also seems like a thing that somebody would maybe do. What else do I have? Oh, Shelley Duvall was traumatized by it, but also like didn't want to work with Kubrick again, but also really liked the performance that she gave and got out of her. So, you know, there is a method to the madness. Not saying it's right or good, just saying that's what happened. And to keep Jack Nicholson frustrated and angry on set, they would only feed him cheese sandwiches, which he hated.
I came across that, yeah, to keep him kind of
irritated.
It's like the method acting, but like really getting into it.
So those are the fun facts I kind of have in my brain that are constantly in my brain that are just a cycle of repeat. I'll think of one randomly.
The "Here's Johnny" line was improvised. I think I remember that. I just came across that again. I was like, I remember hearing that.
Kubrick almost left it out of the cut.
Yeah.
Because he was in England and living in England and they didn't listen to Johnny Carson, so he didn't think it was there. Yeah. So he didn't want to use it.
He's like, what?
It's the most iconic part of that movie.
Isn't Jack a nickname for Johnny sometimes, or is it?
I don't know.
Or did I only make that connection because of this movie, thinking before I knew Johnny Carson, like, because I knew some. That's the other thing, is I think I knew some of the major scenes, or at least that line, before I'd seen the whole movie as probably a teenager. And so, because I remember my dad liking it, the movie itself. So was the other thing. I saw. No, you mentioned the cheese sandwiches. Mm-hmm. Oh, there's another. This one's interesting, but rumors about Stanley Kubrick actually typing up the pages of All Work, No Play, but I don't know if that was ever.
I believe it was one of his secretaries worked for like 3 months, day in, day out, just typing All Work and No Play.
Because that'd be alpha move, or I don't know if it's alpha, but like, boom, I did all these crazy pages or whatever. Right. I will say on one of them, I'd have to go back. I went back to look at some because I want to see how they're laid out. I think one line says Dill Boy instead of Dull Boy. Mm-hmm. So like you get those like little typos on the keyboard because the U is next to the I. And I go, he's a pickle boy. I don't know, it's stupid. But that's how crazy he is. Right. It's good. I like the movie's so good for that.
So I recently heard a theory about The Shining, the movie, that I thought was pretty interesting. And I can't remember any specific examples, but I'll do my best. There is a theory out there that in Kubrick's version, Wendy is actually the one going crazy and is kind of imagining all of these things happening, and that Jack is really mad at her, but she's just kind of, I don't know, it was a YouTube video. They made a lot of good arguments about it. I can't think of any of them right now, so probably just ignore most of that, but...
Yeah, but I've seen stuff like that where there's theories and them explaining it, and obviously when you try to make those theories, you do have a couple of gaps, but there's already gaps in interpretation as it is, so it's really fun to do. Yeah. So I'm trying to picture that. I'm thinking even just with him chopping through the door. So is it like he still chops through the door to like get to her, but he's not angry or upset, or is she imagining that happening altogether?
I don't remember.
Okay.
So a lot of the clues that they were showing were like continuity errors, and because Kubrick was such a stickler for like continuity, they shot in order and like everything was ready. It doesn't make sense for there not to be good continuity between things. Like a chair will be in a different place or whatever. Like the chair behind Jack Nicholson is there, and then as soon as he starts getting angry, the chair's gone. And it's like Wendy's mind slips into him, yelling at her or whatever.
Yeah, I could see that being like almost a result of previous trauma, if he was an alcoholic and was a little aggressive. It sounds like he never actually did something major to them, just he dislocated, at least in the movie. Maybe the book's different, but he dislocated his arm.
I think in the book it's the same. He gets drunk and hits Danny, and they kind of work it out. They're still working it out in the book, where they're kind of like, Wendy's different. She's a lot less timid in the book. She's kind of a hot cheerleader.
Interesting.
And just kind of like, I don't know, it's just different. She's a different...
Do all his lines to her, do make me feel really bad for her, because he's like...
How stupid can you be?
Yeah, how stupid can you be? Just really... Or he's trying to work... it's funny, because especially in COVID times and working from home, I've had those moments where I'm like, I'm in my office, so like, don't come in here.
Right.
Kind of thing. And so I was watching him give her that initial talk, and then he's like, then don't fucking come in here, or whatever. I'm like, typing. If I'm in here at all, don't come in here.
Yeah. It's definitely, if you're experiencing some isolation through COVID, definitely check out The Shining, because it'll really speak to you.
Yeah, I had a little awakening there of, I mean, it's not like I've cursed at my family about,
I should go get the wife some flowers.
Yeah, maybe it should be nice to her a little bit. What else was, and then he does such a good job. She's got the bat, the whole stair, going up the stair scene. Right. It's like, I'm not going to hurt you. I'm just going to bash your brains in. It's like, holy crap.
And like, how terrible of a swing does she have? Like, she's all choked up on it. Like,
she's just too frightened. She's worried.
But check out Dr. Sleep, everybody. Yeah. Because it's really underrated, and it's a good good conclusion to that story. I liked the book Shining better than the movie, but I liked the movie Dr. Sleep better than the book. I think because he blew up the hotel in the book, he had to change a lot of what would have been good for the story to kind of make a sequel happen. And
I wonder if the blowing up thing seems out of place in Kubrick's head. Not that it wouldn't make sense given the boiler room stuff, but
I think
to just have a big explosion at the end of the movie feels a little contrived, I guess, for what he was going for. I can kind of understand.
Yeah, it seems more physical, where Kubrick was kind of going for the psychological.
Yeah.
How much of this are you saying? What's paranormal? What's a ghost? What's not?
There's a lot of psychological.
And to put a definitive explosion on it kind of takes away a lot of that.
Yeah, magic. I feel like it could. Yeah,
it makes it real.
I'm trying to picture it as if it would work, and it might not actually. But in a book, you could totally have that. Plus, you have all this time to flesh out stuff like the things that we didn't see going on in any one character's head. I had a couple more facts that I had up here. I'd already mentioned one to you, but not to the audience. Was the Here's Johnny scene took 60 doors and about 3 days to shoot, I guess. Right. So just imagine going through so many doors. And
so Jack Nicholson was like a volunteer fireman.
Oh, really?
So they had a prop door originally, and on the first take, he just busted through it so fast that they had to get better doors.
Nice.
Yeah.
God, I didn't know that about him. That's cool.
Yeah.
It's interesting. Another thing that I saw here, which I'm just on one. Oh, I'm on Screen Rant, so shout out to screenrant.com here. But this one says that The Shining was one of the first movies to use Steadicam. And the little blurb here just says, back in the mid-'70s, the world of cinematography was hit with a brand new technology that would change everything, which would be the Steadicam.
Yep.
So the first movies, though, that used it include Rocky, Bound for Glory, and Marathon Man. Shining was one of these movies, being among the first half dozen or so to use it. So that's cool. That's
a lot of great
I didn't know that. That one's good to know. And that's another thing. So then on that, I had those two, and then bring me into maybe you have comments on his framing. So like the bathroom scene, you have everything seems perfectly symmetrical and almost pleasing, which then in my head is technically juxtaposed against all the chaos and stuff that's technically going on underneath the surface. Right. Even the framing of the blood coming out from the elevator, that shot's I'm pretty sure is pretty symmetrical too. Mm-hmm. It's just I see how purposeful he is, and I like that. And because you could shoot a movie and obviously you have cinematographer and DP and the director and stuff making these decisions on all of that, and to actually have more of a reason for each one is good. Because I feel like, again, nowadays maybe there's that going on, but I feel like it's less noticeable or something, or maybe I'm completely wrong on that.
I mean, I think it's there if you think to look at it, but movies are really good at distracting you with everything else that you don't really notice.
Maybe I'm just better at realizing it in older films because I've been watching them so long, or
that could be,
or because they were done differently, I can see it better. Nowadays, I'm just like, ooh, shiny things.
Right. So the one thing I noticed when it's kind of a calm, happy, relaxing time, there's a lot of straight lines, parallel lines.
Nice.
And then when the deeper Jack kind of goes into madness, the more diagonals start showing up with the staircase, and then looking over her shoulder down at him, like the background's diagonal. There's diagonals in the apartment when he's breaking into it, and it just kind of like, I think it adds to that unnerving.
So that would be that, because I feel like the symmetrical, I'm like, there's all these lines, and then the decor of the 80s. Well, actually, I don't know if all that. I guess they said it was refurbished or whatever. Like, some of it looked kind of 80s, some of it looked maybe older for the hotel. But those lines, and just the way that you have the camera positioned would then tie it. You have to be purposeful, because if you don't have the camera perfect, those lines aren't going to look quite like that anyway. So almost looks, I don't know, picturesque. I have a bad. I feel like I do a bad job at picking the right word, but picturesque. Just because thinking of a
sounds good.
Picture, but take what you can get, I guess. And I just gave you that. I feel like. Do you have any other things?
No. I enjoy Stephen King, and I am excited to do more of his work because he's a fun writer, and there have been a lot of Stephen King movies, and there are a lot more coming out. So, he's got a deep catalog that is ripe for exploring. He also has like his own extended universe throughout his books, which I think is really fascinating, and I really want. It's part of the reason why I'm kind of reading through a lot of his books, because I want to see this extended world that he's built over these decades, and I'm hoping, maybe, that one day they'll be able to kind of do that with the movies, but we'll see. It's a tall order, especially with the world being chaotic and kind of shut down at the moment again. So we'll see.
Well, thanks for joining us, and the movie for next week will be The Evil Dead. Boom. Just kidding. There, I said it. Yeah, but if people are following along and want to watch the movie beforehand, go ahead and watch the 1981 The Evil Dead. Just Sam Raimi's, right?
You got a week.
Yep.
Giving you a heads up.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.